On Women's Day, I served 13 guests a heartwarming dish. What happened next was incredible. Sarah stood in her cozy kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window, illuminating the handwritten recipe card that had belonged to her grandmother. Each swirl on that yellowed paper carried the weight of generations, promising love and warmth in every bite. As she stirred the bubbling sauce, the blend of garlic and spices filled the air, creating an intoxicating aroma that made her heart swell with anticipation. Today wasn't just another gathering. It was Women's Day, a moment she cherished to celebrate strength, resilience, and shared stories with her closest friends. She glanced at the clock, her heart pounding with excitement. In less than an hour, the laughter of 13 determined women would fill her home. Each friend embodied a unique story, a tapestry woven from struggles, triumphs, and heartbreaks. From Lisa, who had weathered the storm of divorce, to Amira, who wore her hijab with pride after moving to a new country, each woman brought invaluable perspectives. Sarah fervently believed in the magic of community, and she hoped this gathering would nurture healing and support among them. As the doorbell rang, a wave of energy washed over her. She welcomed each friend with open arms, and soon the kitchen transformed into a symphony of voices and laughter. Stories flowed, mingling with the aroma of the simmering dish. But amid the joy, an undercurrent of tension rippled through the conversations. Economic challenges, loss, and what the future held weighed heavily on their hearts. Then Maria, the quietest of the group, shared her dream of opening a bakery. The room buzzed with excitement as her eyes sparkled with passion, but soon the conversation took a sharp turn. Voices rose and opinions clashed about the American dream, privilege, and societal disparities. Sarah's heart raced. This wasn't what she intended for their safe haven. She wanted laughter and support, not division. Before things spiraled further, she took a deep breath. What if we turned our individual struggles into a collective strength? We could start a community project to empower local women, she proposed, hopeful that it could redirect the energy in the room. The room buzzed with mixed responses, but then the reality hit. Financial disparities loomed large. They had the ambition, but the resources felt out of reach. The energy dipped, and doubt settled over them like a thick fog. Yet, at a town hall meeting the following week, they channeled their frustrations into action, collectively confronting the systemic issues that hampered their dreams. Their voices soared, echoing against the walls of the community center. Sarah felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Then came the unexpected twist. Maria's idea caught the attention of a local entrepreneur who saw potential in her bakery. Excitement filled the air again, yet the skepticism from townsfolk lingered like a dark cloud. Amidst clashing hopes and doubts, Sarah couldn't help but wonder, could they truly challenge the systemic barriers that divided them? The oven timer dinged, calling her back to the moment. Holding her grandmother's recipe card, she pondered whether this dish could nourish more than just their bodies. Would it help them find the strength to confront both their personal dreams and the societal struggles looming outside their cozy gathering? The future of their movement hung precariously in the balance, and Sarah knew the story was just beginning. As the last of the dish was served, a sense of warmth spread through the room. The women filled their plates, returning to their discussions with a renewed spirit. Laughter began to break through the earlier tension, and as they gathered around the table, Sarah felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. Here they were, a mix of backgrounds and experiences, united by a shared desire to uplift one another. Amid bites of her grandmother's recipe, Lisa leaned in, her brow softened. For a while, I forgot what it felt like to dream. It's been so easy to bury myself in responsibilities. The table quieted, the weight of her words hanging palpable in the air. Sarah's heart ached, realizing how many dreams were tucked away under the burdens of life. I think that's what today is about, Amira chimed in, her eyes brightening. We can't let fear stifle us. Look how we came together. If we keep this momentum, who knows what we could create. There was a spark in the air as each woman began to feel the power in their vulnerability. Encouraged, Maria spoke up. What if we don't just stop at starting my bakery? What if we create a shared space where all of us can showcase our talents? A place that supports women run by women? The room erupted in ideas, voices blending in a chorus of hope. It was electric. They could be more than individuals with separate struggles. Together, they could build a wellspring of strength. But with the excitement came a ripple of doubt. We still have to figure out the funding, Lisa reminded them, her tone serious once more. We can dream big, but where is the money going to come from? A heavy silence fell, both a reminder of the harsh realities they faced and a challenge to overcome it. Sarah bit her lip, feeling the weight of her friend's aspirations mingling with fears. What if we hold a fundraiser? We could invite the community, share our stories, maybe even sell some of our specialties? Brilliant. Amira's face lit up, and one by one, her enthusiasm sparked renewed vigor. As they discussed themes and potential venues, Sarah felt a swell of determination coursing through the air. They were on the brink of something monumental, and she could almost see it a hub for women to gather, create, and inspire. A much-needed beacon in their town. Later in the evening, as the laughter settled into sweet chatter, Sarah found herself reflecting on the power of shared dreams. She caught Maria's eye, and in that moment, she saw not just an aspiring baker, but a leader ready to emerge from the shadows. Yet, the doubts still lingered in the corners of her mind. Could they truly rally the community and raise the funds? And what if the skepticism that hung over Maria's bakery also clouded their joint venture? The prospect of failing stung, leaving an almost bitter taste in her mouth. But right then, as she surveyed the gathering of women deep in animated dialogue, a sense of profound connection wrapped around her like a warm blanket. They were ready to take action. The night drew to a close. Hugs and exchanges of support continued as the last of her friends trickled out the door. Sarah stood by the sink, rinsing dishes, the flicker of hope still alive within her heart. With the spark ignited, she couldn't shake one last thought: what would it take to turn these ideas into reality? In the days that followed, preparations for their fundraising event took shape. But just when all seemed to be coming together, a startling news headline rattled their community, threatening to overshadow their efforts and test their resolve. Would their dreams withstand not only their own fears but also the unexpected challenges ahead? The next morning, Sarah scrolled through her phone in disbelief. The news headline blared, "Local business closes amid financial struggles, community shocked." It was a beloved cafe that had been a staple in their town for years. Owned by a single mother, it had offered a warm refuge for anyone who needed it, a place filled with laughter, music, and the aroma of fresh coffee. As she sat on the edge of her bed, the news settled over her, heavy as a lead blanket. This was not just a business closing, it was a loss for their community, a reminder of the fragile threads that held them all together. Memories flooded back of the countless brunches she'd enjoyed with friends, the quiet afternoons she'd spent reading in the corner booth. Her heart plummeted at the thought of what it would mean to lose that sense of belonging. She shot a quick text to Maria, Amira, and Lisa. "Did you see the news? We have to talk ASAP." No sooner had she hit send than her phone buzzed. Maria replied almost immediately, her enthusiasm muted by concern. "I did. I can't stop thinking about what this means for us." The three women convened at Sarah's house that afternoon, the weight of the news hanging over them like a storm cloud. As they sat around her kitchen table, now a makeshift strategy hub, the air was thick with tension. "We can't let this discourage us," Sarah spoke first, her voice steady, though her hands trembled slightly. "The cafe's closure is tragic, but it also highlights how much work we need to do." She caught Lisa's worried gaze. "We're building a space that can fill that void. A place for community, for dreams, for our stories. But it feels so monumental now, like we're trying to replace what's already gone," Lisa replied, her brow furrowed. "What if no one supports us?" Maria leaned in, eyes fierce. "Then we tell our own stories. We show up for each other, and show the community what we're all about. If they see our passion, they might feel inspired to help. We can't let fear ruin this." There was a moment of heavy silence as they considered her words. It was true, they were all painfully aware of the risks, but also of the rewards. With a collective deep breath, the spark of determination reignited. "We need to reframe our fundraiser," Amira suggested. Instead of just a bake sale, let us make it a celebration. We can invite local artists, speakers, everything. Let us make it about community revival. Excitement surfaced, flooding through Sarah like sunlight breaking through clouds. They began brainstorming ideas, jotting down everything from thrift shop sales to open mic nights. Each suggestion added another layer to their dream. The planning session turned into a whirlwind of energy as they lost track of time. It felt good to channel their collective grief into something hopeful. Laughter bubbled back into the conversation, sacred bonds forming as they envisioned how the fundraiser could not only honor the cafe, but also showcase the vibrant talents of all the women involved. By the end of the day, they had a plan laid out, one that felt daring yet achievable. Sarah could hardly contain her smile. This is our moment. We need to believe we can make a difference. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the kitchen, the mood shifted. There was still an edge of unease, but also a growing excitement pulsating through each of them. They could be more than individual voices. Together, they could make one powerful noise. Just then, Sarah's phone pinged again. It was a message from their local newspaper. "We'd love to feature your fundraiser. Can we meet next week?" The reality hit her hard, almost leaving her breathless. Could this be the turning point they needed? But then came the whisper of doubt. Was it too ambitious to think they could pull this off? A sense of urgency and hope filled the room, and Sarah could almost hear the ticking clock. It was time to act. How far would they have to go to make their vision a reality? What obstacles awaited them on this path? As they locked eyes, determination burning bright, Sarah felt a flicker of anticipation. Nothing was guaranteed, but one thing was sure: they were in this together. And they wouldn't back down without a fight. The following week arrived faster than Sarah expected. As they prepared for the meeting with the newspaper, excitement mixed with apprehension buzzed in the air. They gathered once again at her kitchen table, this time with sketches and notes spread before them, transforming the space into a chaotic but vibrant hub of ideas. "Okay, so we need to make sure our vision comes through in everything we share," Sarah said, her fingers twitching with anticipation. "Think about how we want to present ourselves. We have to be passionate, enthusiastic. They need to feel what we're doing." Maria nodded, enthusiasm aflame in her eyes. "Let us showcase our individual stories too. Each of us has a unique connection to the cafe. We should share those." Amira jumped in, "And make sure to mention the local artists. They're not just performers, they're part of our community, just like the cafe was. We can create something special that celebrates our town." Lisa nervously tapped her fingers on the table. What if our stories aren't enough? I mean, what if they don't get it? Their confidence had been soaring, but doubt crept in again like an unwelcome guest. "Then we make them get it," Sarah declared. "We pour our hearts out. This is our chance to show them how much we care." The dynamic in the room shifted as they pushed self-doubt aside, instead embracing determination and hope. They spent the next few hours preparing like artists before a grand unveiling, poring over every detail. From which colors to use in their flyers to the arrangement of the tables at the event, each choice became imbued with meaning. When meeting day finally dawned, the air was electric. They arrived at the newspaper office, gripping their portfolios tightly. The office was buzzing, journalists moving quickly from desk to desk. Sarah felt out of place, but also strangely at home. It was the same air she had breathed in the cafe, chaotic, yet alive. Soon, they were ushered into the editor's office, a welcoming but busy space filled with the sound of clacking keyboards and rustling papers. The editor, a woman named Grace, looked up from her notepad with a warm smile. "Ladies, I've heard so much about you," she said, her expression one of genuine interest. "What can you tell me about this fundraiser?" As they took turns sharing their stories, a spark ignited in the room. Each woman spoke of the cafe, weaving tales of community connections, laughter, and love. They spoke of dreams stretched and reshaped amid uncertainty. Sarah's heart raced as she saw Grace lean forward, captivated by their passion. The conversation flowed naturally, laughter mixing with serious notes as they talked about their plans to create a vibrant celebration of resilience. They shared ideas of open mic nights, artistic showcases, and how every detail would be designed to honor not only the cafe, but the heart of their town. "I love it," Grace said when they finished. "Let us get the word out. This is a story the community needs to hear." They floated out of the office on a cloud of joy, feeling like real warriors for change. As they walked back to Sarah's house, deep in conversation about follow-ups and logistics, Maria stopped suddenly, her brows furrowed with concern. What if the community doesn't respond? What if we get everything ready and no one shows up? Her voice was barely a whisper. The weight of her question hung heavy in the air, like a sudden storm cloud overshadowing their excitement. "Then we do it anyway," Sarah replied, instinctively putting a reassuring hand on Maria's shoulder. "We can't let fear stop us from trying. Together, we can overcome anything." The sunlight cast long shadows behind them as they made their way home, the warmth fading just slightly, leaving a lingering question in the air. Would their efforts resonate with others? Could they truly spark the change they envisioned? A flicker of uncertainty lingered in Sarah's heart. But as they divided their tasks and prepared for the upcoming fundraiser, she realized this journey was about more than just rallying support. It was about stitching their community back together, one shared story at a time. Somewhere deep inside, she knew they were on the brink of something incredible, but the road ahead was still uncertain. What would happen if they couldn't reach the community they so desperately wanted to connect with? As the day drew to a close, shadows began to stretch across the yard, reflecting the growing tension between hope and fear. What awaited them when the fundraiser finally took place? Would their dreams turn into reality, or would they risk it all for a chance to unite their town once more? The day was drawing closer, and with each passing moment, Sarah felt the weight of their plans heavy on her shoulders. They hovered over their notes and sketches like pre-flight pilots, checking every detail twice. The fundraiser was more than a mere event. It was a beacon of hope, a chance for connection that could breathe life back into their community. As the days rolled by, enthusiasm mingled with anxiety. Sarah spent late nights glued to her laptop, researching ways to promote their cause through social media. She posted updates, shared behind-the-scenes glimpses of their preparations, and crafted heartfelt messages about why this fundraiser meant so much. She hoped that every like and comment could manifest into real support. On the final night before the big day, the four friends gathered in Sarah's kitchen once more. The lights glowed warmly, illuminating the scattered remnants of late-night snacks and crumpled flyers. Amira was busy stapling together stacks of flyers, while Lisa and Maria were sorting out supplies for the open mic stage. "Have we really done enough?" Lisa asked, the uncertainty creeping back into her voice as she observed the chaotic scene. "What if nobody comes?" Maria set down a flyer and crossed her arms, searching for the right words. "We've poured our hearts into this. We just need to remind ourselves why we're doing it. This is about more than numbers." "Yes," Sarah encouraged, her palms resting on the table. "We're offering something beautiful. A space for everyone to share, to heal, and to reconnect. That matters." They began to share their hopes, their dreams for the cafe, and the stories they wanted to inspire in others. Reminiscing about laughter shared within the cafe walls ignited a flicker of excitement in Sarah's heart. They had the power to reignite that spirit and, even more, to expand it beyond what they had ever imagined. Suddenly, Maria raised her phone, her eyes widening. "Look at this," she exclaimed, showing them a social media post where the local community board shared their fundraiser, encouraging folks to join. Their excitement surged, a wave of relief washing over them as new likes and shares began to flood in. It was the first real sign that perhaps their dreams were not as far-fetched as they imagined. But underneath that exhilaration, Sarah couldn't shake off the nagging fear gnawing at the back of her mind. What if, despite their efforts, the turnout was still minimal? What if the community remained unchanged and unresponsive? "Even if it's just a small group, we can still make it special," she said softly, knowing full well it wasn't just the attention she craved, but genuine connection. "Yeah, we can create moments that matter, no matter the crowd size," Amira added, a determined glint in her eye. Exactly, Sarah smiled back, inspired. And who knows? Maybe the right people will be there, those who need to hear what we have to say. Their voices carried into the night, laughter mingling with plans. They spiritedly bounced ideas off one another, crafting signs and decorations for the cafe like early holiday preparations. Each design bore their investment, a tribute to the community they loved. Finally, exhausted yet fulfilled, they called it a night. As they left, the moon shone brightly overhead, illuminating their path. Sarah took one last glance back at her home, imagining the vibrant life bursting forth from that familiar space come morning. The day of the fundraiser arrived, bringing with it anticipation thick in the air. Local artists began to set up, education pamphlets were stacked high, and a hum of people started to gather. But as Sarah stood behind the registration table, her heart pounded with uncertainty. Would anyone show? Or would this be yet another quiet chapter in their city's tale? Just then, a familiar face appeared at the edge of the crowd, someone she hadn't expected. Her breath hitched, and a storm of emotions swept through her. What if this person's presence could change everything? As the warm afternoon sun dipped lower in the sky, casting golden light on their setup, Sarah felt a spark of hope flicker deep within her. She knew this moment could be the turning point they all needed. Little did she realize, a twist was about to unfold that would send ripples through her community, igniting a chain reaction of change neither she nor her friends could have predicted. As the afternoon wore on, the crowd began to swell. Each face that streamed in felt like a stitch weaving together their community's fabric, each smile promising warmth and connection. Sarah stood at the registration table, her heart a pendulum swinging between hope and trepidation. She desperately scanned the room, her gaze drifting from volunteer to volunteer as they set up with biodegradable plates and mismatched chairs that invited everyone to sit as equals. Then she saw her Anna, a woman who had been a part of the cafe since its inception, her presence like cool water on a hot day. Anna's smile radiated confidence as she approached, hands clasped tightly around a small white box. "I brought something for you," Anna said, her voice resonating with warmth. "Home-baked cookies. They're the old family recipe. I thought they might bring some cheer." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Thank you, Anna. That's so sweet of you." As she placed the box on the table, Sarah felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. The scent of fresh cookies wafted out when she opened the lid, mingling with the aroma of roasted coffee that filled the air, like an embrace wrapping around the room. But as she turned back to the crowd, her excitement faded slightly. The numbers were promising, yet uncertainty lurked in the corners of her mind. What if the magic didn't happen? What if they all went home feeling the same? No matter the crowd, right? She whispered to herself, echoing Maria's words from their late-night planning session. Moments later, Lisa ran up to her, barely able to contain her excitement. "Sarah, look. People are embracing the open mic. It's packed." When Sarah looked, her heart soared. The small stage, adorned with fairy lights strung across, glowed with the faces of performers sharing their stories. Each voice contributed a unique note to the melody of hope they were all crafting together. Without thinking, Sarah slipped past the tables and joined her friends near the stage. She felt the energy pulsing through the crowd, the shared laughter, the clapping hands raising joy into the air. But her happiness was cut short when she caught sight of something that took her breath away. In the front row, Sam, a childhood friend with a smile that always made her heart race, sat watching intently. She hadn't expected to see him here. Their paths had drifted after high school, but everything about him still felt like home. "Hey there," he called out, gesturing her over. Sarah hesitated, anxiety curling around her stomach. What if he hadn't changed? What if she was still the same person who couldn't express her thoughts? Still, she found her feet moving toward him, the familiar lightness of their friendship urging her on. "Isn't this amazing?" he asked, his eyes sweeping across the room. "I never thought something like this could happen here." "It's just the start," Sarah responded, feeling the potential of their connection, igniting a fire in her heart. "We're hoping to create something lasting, to bring everyone back together." As the two shared hopes and stories, the crowd erupted in applause for a performer who poured out his soul through music. The sounds wrapped around them, binding them together in a way they hadn't felt in too long. But just as Sarah began to relax, a loud crash echoed from the back, slicing through the joyous atmosphere. Eyes turned, whispers turned to gasps as the room stilled in surprise. "What was that?" Lisa asked, her brow furrowing as dread crept back into Sarah's heart. "I don't know," Sarah whispered, her gut tightening. Whatever it was, her hopes now dangled uncertainly in the balance. Would this fundraiser become the pivotal moment they all needed, or would it falter at the first sign of trouble? With a deep breath, Sarah prepared to face whatever awaited her next, unsure if it would be salvation or disaster. The silence that followed the crash wrapped around Sarah like a cold blanket. It felt heavy in her chest, constricting her breath. People shifted uneasily in their seats, eyes darting from the stage to the source of the sound. "Maybe it was just something falling," Lisa suggested, forcing a smile, but her voice wavered, revealing her own uncertainty. Without thinking, Sarah took a step toward the back, her instincts propelling her forward. "Stay here," she called out over her shoulder. Lisa nodded, but Sarah could see the worry etched in her friend's features. Each step felt like a leap into uncertain waters. As she reached the back of the room, the cause of the commotion became apparent. A folding table had tipped, its contents scattered across the floor. A few chairs were overturned, creating an obstacle course of spilled cups and plates. "Is everyone okay?" Sarah called, her voice steadier than her shaking hands. From a corner, a woman brushed aside a blonde strand of hair and waved. "I'm fine. Just clumsy." She laughed, but Sarah could see the embarrassment flooding her cheeks, transforming her face into a mask of red. Relief rushed through Sarah, pushing back the tension in her chest. She knelt to help pick up the fallen items, the familiar scent of cookies grounding her. The clatter of dishes returned to a soft rhythm of laughter and conversations bubbling around her. Just as she stood, the crowd burst into applause again, this time for a young woman on stage whose poetry struck chords of raw emotion, echoing themes of resilience. Sarah smiled at the sound, but her mind nagged at her. What if that crash had been a signal? What if chaos would shake the very foundation of their gathering? She took a deep breath and returned to the front, hoping to find comfort in the familiar faces of her friends. As she neared Sam, he leaned forward with a raised eyebrow. "Everything all right?" "You disappeared," he said, a hint of concern lacing his tone. "Yeah, just a little mishap," Sarah replied, forcing a smile. But the incident lingered in her mind, like an uninvited guest refusing to leave. The show went on, and Sarah lost herself in the flow of performances. One by one, people took the stage to share stories of struggle, overcoming hardships, and the power of community. As more voices rose, the warmth of shared experiences absorbed the chill of earlier worries. Yet, the lingering shadow of doubt pressed upon her heart. Sarah glanced at the crowd, looking for signs of discontent or boredom. Instead, she saw faces illuminated with laughter, eyes glistening with hope. It was working. They were starting to connect. The moment stitched together the fabric of camaraderie, just as she had envisioned. "See? We're building something special," Sam said quietly, catching her gaze. He tilted his head towards the stage, where a young boy's innocence shone through in his heartfelt song. "This is just the kind of magic we need." Just then, a woman in the back shouted, "More cookies." "Who brought those?" Laughter erupted anew, breaking any remaining tension. Sarah turned to see Anna, still happily handing out cookies, her smile a beacon of reassurance. A spark of joy flickered inside Sarah. Maybe this was at the moment where everything turned around. Perhaps today was the beginning of something stronger than she had initially dreamed. But just as she felt that wave of hope crash over her, the lights flickered violently, dimming before completely going dark. Sarah's heart sank. "Not again," she muttered under her breath, her fears intertwining with disbelief. As confusion rippled through the crowd, she felt the weight of the moment. What would happen next? Would the magic ignite again, or would this be the end of their gathering? With her stomach in knots, Sarah leaned into the darkness, searching for a way to bring light back into their collective hearts. What would it take to ensure that hope prevailed? And then she heard it, a small voice breaking through the uncertainty, singing softly, determinately into the void. Would others join in, or would the silence swallow them whole? The small voice pierced through the darkness, a fragile thread in the chaos. As Sarah strained to see, she could make out a figure at the front, the young boy whose song had roused the audience just moments ago. His voice trembled, yet it held a certainty that seemed to beckon hope. "Keep singing," someone called out from the back, empowering him like a cheerleader for the spirit of resilience. Encouraged, the boy sang louder. His melody danced like a flickering flame, igniting the hearts of those around him. One by one, people began to join in, their voices merging into a warm blanket of sound, wrapping them in shared determination. Laughter and cheers erupted again, somehow stronger than before. "Look at them. They're coming alive," Sam shouted, his voice ringing with a mix of disbelief and exhilaration. Sarah felt a surge of emotion rise within her. She didn't see fear on the faces around her anymore, only light. In the dark, a connection formed. No longer were they strangers in a crowded room, they were a community, unified by the sound of a boy's brave heart. Her own heart raced not from panic, but from exhilaration. "Together, let us bring the light back," she shouted, rallying everyone still beneath that weighty darkness. In a spontaneous act of solidarity, clapping began to fill the air, syncing with the sweet notes of the song. Children's laughter echoed, adding a heartbeat to the moment. Sarah closed her eyes, letting the scene wash over her. When the lights flickered back to life, they were met with a sea of smiling faces, singing and clapping, celebrating triumph in the midst of uncertainty. The energy pulsed through the room like electricity, restoring warmth and a spirit of joy. "Wow, they really found their light," Sarah whispered in awe, glancing at Sam, whose eyes sparkled with admiration. "Yeah," he replied softly, "you brought them together." She shook her head, overwhelmed by the revelation that we all have the capacity to uplift one another, to rise and shine even when the world feels dark. The realization filled her with a sense of purpose. She had wanted this gathering to mean something, and in this moment it became clear they had built something precious. As the crowd continued to sing, Anna passed out cookies amid laughter, turning into a sweet symbol of their collective bond. It was simple, yet beautiful, a reminder that sometimes the littlest gestures could bring about the biggest waves of change. But amidst the joy, Sarah felt a slight tug of unease. What had caused the lights to fail in the first place? Was it just a technical glitch, or something more? Just as her mind wandered, a voice rang out from the edge of the crowd. "Hey, who knows what's going on with the power? Is it fixed?" A ripple of uncertainty crossed the room as murmurs began anew. Sarah glanced around, feeling the tension creeping back in like a shadow. Would the power stay on, or would more chaos follow? What lay ahead for them all now, after this moment of connection? Suddenly, her phone buzzed in her pocket, a message that sent her pulse racing. It was a notification from the venue. As she glanced down, the text left her breathless. "Emergency alert. We've lost control of the power grid." Her heart sank. They needed to act quickly. Would they manage to hold on to the spark they had ignited, or would they lose everything in the darkness again? The room buzzed with a mix of laughter, music, and a newfound camaraderie that Sarah had never expected to foster. But the urgent message buzzed in her mind, eclipsing the joy of their moment. It felt like an anchor dragging her thoughts under. How could everything feel so right while they faced the potential for another blackout? "Everyone, listen up," Sarah called out, raising her voice over the chatter. "We might be facing another power outage, but we've just shown how strong we are together. We need to stay alert and find a way to keep the light burning, even if the lights go out again." The crowd quieted, focusing on her. Sam stepped closer, his expression a mix of concern and determination. "What can we do?" he asked. A few people began to murmur, ideas taking root among them. "Maybe we can make a plan, just in case the power goes out again," Anna suggested, her eyes shining with resolve. The wheels in Sarah's mind began to turn. "Let us gather everyone who can help." She pointed to some familiar faces. "Kathy, can you check on the emergency supplies? And Mike, Look into the generator situation. The last thing we want is to be left in the dark. People nodded, springing into action as the crowd divided into small groups, each one buzzing with purpose. Excitement crackled in the air again, mingling with the tension. As they all hustled, Sarah made her way back to the boy. He was sitting on the floor now, visibly tired but still humming softly to himself. Her heart warmed at his resilience. "You did amazing," she said, kneeling beside him. "You're the reason we found our light." He looked up with bright eyes, his innocence shining through. "Will we have to sing again?" "Absolutely. If it means we can keep everyone's spirits up, that's exactly what we'll do." Just then, a sudden flicker of the lights made everyone pause. The buzz in the air stalled momentarily as a wave of anxiety rippled through the crowd. But before fear could settle in, Sarah felt the warmth gathering in her chest again. "Hey, everyone!" Sarah shouted, her voice firm and steady. "Let us show them we're ready for anything. Let us sing." The boy's face lit up as he sprang to his feet. He began the familiar melody, and others soon joined in. Together, their voices rose triumphantly, weaving a tapestry of sound that echoed against the walls. Laughter and clapping followed, as they sang louder, pushing away the encroaching shadows. In the midst of the song, Sarah glanced over at Sam. His eyes shone with admiration. "How did you do that?" he asked incredulously. "It's not me, it's all of us. We're in this together." Tears of gratitude welled in her eyes, a blend of pride and hope swelling in her chest. She felt the power of community pulsating through her veins. But just as they reached a crescendo, the lights flickered violently again and then went dark. Panic gripped the room for just a moment until Sarah quickly reminded them, "It's okay. We've got this. Keep singing." And they did. Voices soared in the dark, refusing to bow to fear. But beneath the powerful melody, doubt loomed in Sarah's heart. What if the power grid wasn't just a glitch? What if it was more than they could handle? With the shadow of the unknown surrounding them, she wondered if they had truly summoned enough courage to face whatever lay ahead. As the last notes hung in the silence, a new message lit up Sarah's phone. She hesitated, the warmth of their connection battling the cold grip of the alert. She took a deep breath, her fingers shaking slightly, and clicked it open. What she read next sent a chill racing down her spine. It was a warning that threatened everything they had built together. The message blared, "Severe weather warning. Take cover immediately. Power outages expected throughout the area." A wave of panic washed over Sarah. The energy that had once filled the room felt abruptly deflated, replaced by a rising tide of fear. She looked around at her friends. The gathered crowd, the joy that had illuminated their faces just moments ago began to morph into uncertainty. "Everyone, please listen." Sarah called out, her voice shaking but resolute. "We need to stay calm. We'll regroup and make sure everyone is safe." Lisa stepped closer, her eyes wide. "What do we do? Should we leave?" "No. We can't abandon this gathering. Not after everything we've built, the light we've shared." Sarah's words felt urgent, the stakes suddenly higher. "Let us use this time to come together, to shield one another. Share your stories, your strength, whatever you can do. We are more than any storm." With her heart racing, Sarah turned to Sam, who was already gathering people around him. "Let us make a circle," he shouted, and soon those who had been standing together quickly formed a protective circle, embracing each other tightly. The connection felt strong, palpable, solidifying the community they had longed for. One by one, stories began to emerge, each woman using her voice as a beacon. Amira spoke first, recalling how she had fought to carve out her identity in a new country, filled with challenges, but bolstered by the hope of those around her. "Together, we can overcome anything. We've done it before. We can do it again," she declared, her voice resonating powerfully amid the sobering atmosphere. The air was heavy but charged with determination. One story inspired another, like a relay of strength. Lisa shared her journey, fighting through heartbreak and rediscovering dreams she had locked away. The sound of her words acted like a balm, soothing worries as it enveloped the circle like a protective hug. The boy joined them, his brave spirit lighting up the gathering once more. "Can I sing?" He asked quietly, his small voice echoing through the anxious air. Of course, Sarah replied, pushing her trepidation aside, trusting that music could heal even in the darkest moments. As he began to sing again, despite the rumble of distant thunder, awe enveloped the space. Others joined in, blending their voices together as their community took back their night. Each note rose higher, cascading through the room, wrapping them all in warmth and unity. But deep down, Sarah felt a flicker of fear. Could music truly shield them from what was coming? Outside, the wind began to howl, a stark reminder of the storm brewing. It loomed over the gathering, but inside, hope crackled like electricity, weaving through their hearts. Suddenly, everything changed again. The lights flickered faintly before shutting down for good. An unsettling chorus of gasps rippled through the crowd, but Sarah held her ground. "We survived this," she shouted, even when her heart clenched. "We are a community, fear can't break us." The shadows pressed in around them, but she felt something powerful, the warmth of shared determination filling her heart. "Remember, we are more than this moment," she cried. "We are resilient, and together, we can face whatever comes. You are not alone." Amidst the storm, the group caught fire, defiance igniting in the depths of their souls. They began to share stories with fervor as laughter burst forth, echoing defiantly against the dark. The boyish laughter rang out, wrapping them all up in its innocence, light pushing back against shadows. They stood strong, a human fortress against the fears outside. Each voice added strength, like weightlifting, nurturing the dreams they held dear, reminding each other of the power within them. And then Sarah noticed something extraordinary happening, a flicker of familiar faces showing up at the edge of the crowd, some people from the town trickling in, drawn by the energy they had created. "Hey, we heard about the gathering," one man shouted, urgency brushing his tone. "We brought candles and flashlights. Is everyone okay?" A sense of relief flooded Sarah as they welcomed them, bolstering their gathering with fresh warmth. It was the community she had longed for, a symphony of stories and shared strength, illuminating the darkness together. As they lit candles, the flickering flames pushed back the shadows, illuminating their faces, now glowing with hope. With every story and laugh, it felt like they were stitching together a tapestry of resilience that could withstand any storm. Standing there amidst a whirlwind of fears and laughter, Sarah realized the true power of their connection, not just the event they had planned, but the very heartbeat of their community, the powerful, warm beating of hearts committed to one another's stories and dreams. In the face of adversity, hope had taken root. And she knew, no matter the challenges ahead, they could weather any storm together. They ended the night not with despair, but with a renewed sense of purpose, a vision to expand their dreams into a community space where they could share not just their stories, but their futures. As the storm raged outside, they found shelter in each other, in the warmth of friendship, laughter, and purpose. In that moment, Sarah felt a full heart, tears brimming with gratitude. They had ignited a spark, and together they had transformed fear into a fierce love for their community. This was their moment. This was their journey to uplift one another. And as Sarah took a deep breath, standing surrounded by her friends, her heart echoed the realization, a collective heart pulsing with life. Together, they were unstoppable. Now, more than ever, she felt the urgency of the moment. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about how they transformed their fears into strength. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring journey together. Let us keep the light alive.